NSFW, people of Reddit, what is the situation that you thought to yourself, yeah, this is my all-time low?
When I went to my ex-wife's parents to plead for help dealing with their gambling-addicted daughter. Poured my guts out explaining that if we didn't get help for her soon, we'd lose the only house our 3 sons have ever known. Over the last year we were together, I stopped counting her loses once I hit $100,000. Casino apps are no joke. Anyway, her parents explained they had no idea and would step in ASAP. 2 weeks later, my ex and her family got together over the weekend. They didn't tell me anything other than keep an eye on the boys. No problem, figured it was an intervention. Nope. They all went to the casino together. I filed 2 months later after realizing I could secure the house for my kids.
When I had been on a 3-day party trip and was going back to my apartment on the train. Started to sweat like mad and my stomach did not feel good. Tried to waddle myself home like a penguin, clenching my butt cheeks all the way. About 200 m from my apartment building it didn't work anymore and I'd shat my pants. Had to then shit the rest out on the pavement and get home ASAP. I don't think you could even measure the level of shame, anxiety and stupidity I felt at that time. I was 36 years old at this point.
When I rented a room in a house, and it was the 4-foot by 7-foot floor space behind a home basement bar, you could smell the dead rats in the wall.
When I got in my car and my gut was so big that even with the seat as far back as it could go, it would dig into the steering wheel. I had to suck in my gut before making turns. Heaviest I'd been in my life. 100 pounds down from that weight though. Still going strong.
Woke up with a tube down my throat, brace around my neck, cuts and bruises everywhere, unable to move with 2 cops right above me. I had to sit there while they explained to me I was hit by a driver who ran a light. I had to drop out of school for a year, lost my job and was in/out of treatments for over a year. All because of someone's stupid decision. Edit, should have mentioned this, I wasn't in a car. I was crossing a well-lit crosswalk. And yes, I waited until the sign turned green and looked around for cars, still wasn't enough to save me.
Psych ward. I remember waking up and thinking I never thought I'd see this day.
After my divorce years ago, my buddy thought it was a good idea to give me a keg of Christmas ale. I sat alone at home and filled up an empty milk gallon jug every night with it and drank it until it was gone, but not before using it to wash down multiple Ambien in one sitting. I still look back and wonder how I'm still alive to talk about it.
The day I found my fiance dead in her tub after having a seizure. It has been a little over a year now and I'm definitely doing better, but I don't think I'll ever have the happiness that I used to have.
When I gambled a big % of my savings in a few seconds, and yes, I lost.
I pawned my wedding ring to get money to feed my pill addiction. It opened my eyes though and I ended up cleaning up after a few more months and getting my ring back. My wife worked her ass off to buy me that ring and I was such an addicted piece of shit that I pawned it for a fix. Glad that moment finally woke me up though. 11 years clean now.
When I think to myself, do I have enough alcohol to get myself through the weekend, and buy a bottle of vodka just in case? Then spending the weekend feeling like shit and hating myself, wondering why I'm not happy. Negative feedback loops exist and are a bitch. If you remove yourself from it for 2 weeks, I promise you'll get better. Edit, it's a positive feedback loop, even though the experience is negative. It builds on itself.
Homeless, dope sick, and shitting in a tire in a vacant lot at 3 a.m. while trying to mix a bag of heroin I knew was just crushed up drywall, but I just had to make sure. Checked into detox the next day. That was 20 years ago.
Sitting in my home, wrecked from a failed overdose attempt, 20K in debt, no job, addicted to painkillers and wondering if I called my mom if she would even care, or just tell me it was my problem to fix. She cared. Spent the next 10 years putting me back together. Mom died Tuesday morning. As bad as I feel, and having BPD, that's pretty bad, I'm not going to backslide. I won't make all her love and effort meaningless. I will keep things under control and moving forward. Edit, thanks for all the kind words.
Boyfriend's parents sat me down to tell me they think their son deserves better while he watched and said nothing.
Sitting in the suicide naughty room of the ER, trying to figure out how to eat the applesauce they brought me without access to any utensils. Ended up using the lid as a kind of scoop, which was good enough. Definitely an all-time low. Thankfully I'm medicated, in therapy, and doing much better now. And I can eat my applesauce with spoons like a big girl.
I was in the throes of an alcohol addiction and went over to my elderly neighbor's house to play some cribbage. I found him laying on his couch and I thought he may have simply died there. My first thought was, naturally, to grab his wallet and run. I didn't. Been sober over 25 years now, too.
It was the first month of real quarantine. My wife said she wanted a divorce. I was on indefinite furlough from my job, had to move in with my mom who wound up dying 6 weeks later, my car was repossessed and I was trapped living out in the middle of nowhere, no income, unable to get a job, and I had no friends because my ex was abusive and had cut me off from everyone I knew, so I had no family or support systems left. That was rock bottom for me.
Spent over $1,000 in a weekend on a combination of alcohol, phone sex lines, and a few prostitutes. The only free call I made that weekend was to the suicide hotline.
I passed out drunk in front of my then 4-year-old. He was trying to wake me up and got very upset. My husband was with him, so thankfully he was safe. The next day my son told me how scared he was that he couldn't wake me up, and I promised it would never happen again. That was the last time I drank. I'll be 4 years sober this December.
I woke up in the drunk tank. Police found me blackout drunk with none of my friends in sight. Was far from home and it was 4:00 a.m. They had no choice but to keep me overnight. Waking up on a concrete bed with the vaguest recollection of what happened, fucking brutal. Caught the train to the beach that morning and cried for the longest time. The worst part was that nobody tried to contact me, and I was out with a huge group of friends. Edit, thanks for the silver. Also, for clarification, nobody trying to contact me hurt because I had tried to contact them and I got nothing back. I was self-destructive back then and people were sick of my shit. I moved away for a while and focused on bettering myself, understanding how I'd strained relationships with my actions and accepting that some relationships could not be repaired.
I was living in a gas station bathroom, deluding myself into thinking it's not so bad, it's like camping. I was also addicted to heroin, and had been for years, and was eating a cold can of black beans and Fritos for my only meal of the day. I'd have to be out before the sun came up, where the owners would catch me.
I was arrested when I was 18 and again soon after getting released. After the second time I had pretty much nothing to my name after getting released. My only marketable skill at that point was my body. So I got more into sex work. And drugs because they were just around. I was on my knees sucking some guy's dick in a diaper for a rent money. I realized I was in a bad spot at that point.
I OD'd on a mixture of painkillers, benzos, coke, and whiskey. Woke up somehow after my friends left me in an unknown house unresponsive. Knew once I woke up that I couldn't go on like that anymore, so I had to get help. After that I was in and out of mental hospitals, trying my best to stay clean and get on the right meds. Luckily, I was able to do it with the help of a caring doctor who actually listened to me. Been clean for 12 years now, married with 2 kids. Life can get better. Don't give up.
Back in the day when my daughter was like 4 or 5 in the middle of a ugly divorce, me in retraining, not a dime to my name, checking phone booths and vending machines for any change to have the bus fare to pick my daughter up for the weekend. I had to walk 6 miles one way since I didn't have the money for back and forth, and it was so cold, but I did not want my kid to have to walk. I think that was my all-time low.
This time last year, I had left my friends and job in another state and moved to the middle of nowhere to get sober and be with family. I had no car, no home, no friends, and withdrawals from several substances. Probably the lowest I had ever been, and was on the verge of suicide. Glad I stayed strong though, because now my life has completely changed for the better. Edit. Wow, this is easily my most interacted comment ever. Thank you strangers for the encouragement and awards and kind words. I really hope that this helps someone who is going through it right now.
Today is the 1-year anniversary of my wife's sudden death. We were HS sweethearts and we were married for 35 years. 3 months ago I was diagnosed with dementia. I don't have anything else to lose, so I guess this is rock bottom.
Wife came out as gay, not bi, and told me her latest girlfriend had made it a condition of their staying together that she would no longer have sex with me. We separated, I began drinking to excess and was well on the way to becoming an alcoholic. By a great stroke of luck, I was offered a job in an overseas office of my employer, took it, made a new start, met my future second wife, recently celebrated my 42nd anniversary with her and just became a grandpa.
In November last year, I was lying in a hospital bed after sustaining serious injuries in a work accident. I realized that I was relieved to have almost died because it got me away from the most horrific work environment. Called my parents and they helped to engineer my escape. I never had to go back, and they helped me to get all my belongings out of the flat on site. When internal bleeding and spinal damage is a relief, something is seriously wrong with your life.
A few months ago, when I was seriously considering burning myself to death because I had got better options that would traumatize the least amount of people, I just sat on a bench under a nice tree and really thought hard about my suicide options. Obviously I did not do this, but it's been the one and only time I've tried to seriously make a plan to take my own life.
Threw a mortar firework into a dry field once and nearly caught an apartment complex on fire. Never in my life have I felt as afraid, stupid, and irresponsible as I did the moment the grass caught fire. Edit. This was over 10 years ago.